Tidbits?
The bits of
Play
tids.
tidbits.
The bits of tids.
And welcome into the Gaming Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard De La Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Correct.
It is Monday, October 25th, 2021. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse. We post videos. We just posted our review, Richard, you and I.
Yes.
Resident Evil 4
VR.
for the Oculus Quest 2. And then I just posted a review of In Sound Mind, which is a very good, surprisingly good horror game that I'm excited to talk about here. A lot of horror because we played Resident Evil 4, played In Sound Mind.
It's October.
And I've been playing. I beat Resident Evil 8, which I'm really excited to talk about. So, Connor, why don't you discuss the games that you've been playing?
All right. I've been playing. That battle wraps it up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Connor. I figured with the look on your face, it looked like it was going to be one of those dramatic long pauses to...
People are busy, okay?
Yeah.
Thanks, Richard.
No, I've been trying to play more, but I don't know. I've just been having a lot of issues with the PlayStation 4. Do the controllers just keep dropping off?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're both dead. I don't know.
It's a PS4 issue.
Yeah, it is a
I
PS4.
I brought in a buddy's PS4 controller and it did the same thing.
Okay. I like how you started that sentence like you were confessing. Father, I try to play more games, but I just get my controllers just keep dying, Father.
Sweating.
All right. So, did you want to? I mean, I shared basically all my thoughts with Resident Evil 4.
I don't have any more. Although I don't have any more thoughts about Resident Evil 4. But
Quick recap for the people that didn't watch the video.
Extremely good. Sucks that it's
excellent.
exclusive.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. that
It's
was really quick.
If you do have a Quest, though, 100% worth your time and worth the money, in my opinion.
Yep. One of the best VR games I've ever played.
Really?
Yep. Just wish it were. I mean, personally, I would much rather have a built from the ground up, VR game I can play on my Index. But it's fine. I mean, it sucks, but it's fine.
Corporate
that's more
politics.
exclusivity. Yeah, and the Quest 2 being being forced integrated with Facebook sucks.
Oh, absolutely.
So those are the biggest drawbacks to any game that you're buying on.
Funny you mentioned that because the other day I was like, I'm just gonna go deactivate my Facebook account. I go to do that. It's like it will remove your Oculus. I'm like,
Yep. And
damn it.
you bought some games on the Oculus store, and and that's how it gets you.
Yep.
I mean, that's at this point, I have my Facebook still. I just don't use it.
I've been posting
there.
about Frances Haugen, and she's the Facebook whistleblower. Even though,
right.
Anyway.
Went over my
Sorry, I was into that story for like a day or two, and then I'm sorry.
Richard, what games have you been playing?
I finished up today actually Castlevania Circle of the Moon.
Hooray!
Yeah. And it is my least favorite Castlevania game. Yeah, and that is absolutely 100% confirmed after beating it.
that is unfortunate.
It's a good game. It is a good game, I think, as a Castlevania game. It is also good to an extent. It just has terrible, an interesting magic system called the DSS, and it kind of uses these 2 rows of tarot-esque cards. And they'll be like themed to like Pluto, Uranus, stuff. And then like that's the top line. And the bottom line will be like manticores, cockatrices. Yeah, sure.
Cockatoo.
Like a black dog, stuff like that. And so you will mix and match these cards. So you choose one on the top, one on the bottom, and those will give you specific magical abilities. Which is a really neat and interesting feature. However, these cards are locked behind specific enemy drops, which in the original game, they did not tell you who dropped what. Which granted, it was 2001 GBA game.
Oh, now, and this is the game where you had to go back and forth. You keep killing the same enemy or whatever. Yeah.
So you'd have to kill the same enemy in order to get, the particular card you need. The problem is there are some enemies that are hidden or locked behind particular gauntlets that are very, very difficult. And so, of course, obviously one of the achievements is to get all the DSS cards. And so, of course, I did it begrudgingly. But thankfully, my final 2 card drops, which were the hardest ones to get, like dropped within a couple
that's good
hits. So I was just like, thank God, because some of the other ones I would spend probably upwards of 20 to 30 minutes rewinding because it has a rewind feature. But I would kill the enemy, didn't drop it, rewind it a couple of seconds, kill it again, didn't drop it. Yeah,
it reminds me of Oblivion when you'd get to the end of the like the Oblivion Gate areas.
Sure, yeah.
And you'd get up to the top of the tower, and there'd be the sigil there. You'd take it out, you'd see what it is, or you'd save first. You take it out, you see what the enchantments it gave you. Like, no, reload, reload, reload.
And it's mostly a matter of I want to beat the game, but I want to do everything, but I don't have time.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of
there were
making it
time
easy.
savers you could do.
Right, yeah, that I could pay for.
Jeez.
And thankfully with that gauntlet, it's a 16 room, they call it the battle arena. So 16 rooms you got to go through, each room progressively more difficult. You are not able to use magic. It's just your physical abilities, which your physical abilities are not great.
Limited.
Especially when you're fighting against enemies who are quickly flying around the screen, or if there's one room where you enter and it's just 6 or 7 of these Minotaur enemies that when they hit the ground, you get a wave of energy come at you. And it's immediately like right when you walk through the door, they're already swinging. And it's very difficult. Anyways, there's that, just the annoyance that comes from that. Item drops are non-existent. Like the only way you can get health items or items to refill your magic or hearts, which is your currency for throwing your sub-weapons, like I said, non-existent. Like I, for a majority of my game, did not pick up almost any potions, and so I had to rely on like dropping everything I was doing at one point and running to the save room to because right when you choose to save, it'll refill your health and MP, and then just trudging my way all the way back to wherever I was going. So I had to resort to doing that, or just simply, which what I did in the battle arena was go into a fight with little to no health, and then if I didn't survive it, we'll wind it back to where, okay, he was going to do that. That's where that is coming from, and then kind of like calculate it. And I ended up doing it, but anyways, like I said, that's bad.
Gotta break those bricks and find wall chickens.
Right. Well, I wish there were more. The map design is awful. There's tons of verticality to the game. So lots of towers you're going up, lots of areas you're going up. They don't give you the ability to go up quickly until way late in the game. Just like they don't let you dash at the first. You got to find the dash boots like 20 minutes, 30 minutes into the game. It's like, now I can dash, but I got to double tap to press dash. I can't just dash. It's just archaic in its design due to it being a GBA. I'm not fond of it. There's also lots of areas, long stretches of hallways, or once again, towers that lead to absolutely nothing. And then when they do lead to something, it is a like extension of your health or magic bar.
Okay.
Or your heart bar, which towards the end it was just like, I don't, God, like you will, one of the hallways will have so many enemies in it, and then at the end it's just like that little thing, and it's just like why make me go through this if it's not even worth it? Like,
so did this? If you know off the top of your head, did this game review well when it first came out?
It is the best-selling Castlevania game of all time.
Wait, this one?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, because it was a launch title for the GBA.
Oh,
that makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, it was the first Castlevania to sell over 1 million copies, I think. Sorry.
Okay.
Let me rephrase that. It's the first one to sell over 1 million copies. I don't think it's the best-selling one. I think Lords of Shadow is.
Okay.
But they won't show us the numbers for like the anniversary collections and stuff like that. Yeah. So I beat it. I'm done with it. I will move on to the next game. That knocks my only Castlevania game I'll be able to beat in the month of October. But thankfully, it was a game I never beat before. So there's that. And then I started playing and finished, because it's not terribly long, Demon Slayer: The Hinokami Chronicles, which is a fighting game based off the anime of the same name, just Demon Slayer. And it's very gorgeous. It's gorgeous because they finally are able to get that style of animation and CG to work hand in hand with each other, so it looks as if you're really playing the anime, and it's really great. It's a very fun fighter. It's kind of there is skill involved to an extent, but people aren't going to be playing it seriously like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat and whatnot. And then the cutscenes that you are involved in with the QuickTime events are so gorgeous and fun to go through that I wish I could just kind of do those to watch the spectacle of it all. But you have to do the fight first before you can get to those. So, but the fights aren't bad either. They do have an adventure mode, and I stress the adventure because it's honestly just a pathway with a couple branching paths and then things you pick up. And I know that it's because it's all about money and how fast you can churn out these games. But there's a lot of animations out there that can benefit from being turned into an actual fully realized game. I was going to say real game, but it's like fighting game is a real game, but you know what I mean? Not a cash grab. But
Yeah.
so when I'm playing these sections and I'm walking around, it's just empty, and I wish that there was something more to it, much like, well, you know, I don't know, much like, Western developed games like Witcher or,
Oh, okay.
well, I guess Witcher's not technically Western of Japan.
We get what you mean.
Whatever. Anyways, those are the only two I've been playing. So, but besides, of course, Resident Evil, but we won't talk about that.
Okay. In Sound Mind, very good. One of a surprisingly good horror game. It's not that scary. It's psychological horror, and I guess there's some stuff in it that's
persistent. That's just dread horror.
Well, it's not, but it's not even. It's like Goosebumps horror.
Okay.
Like, it's not scary. It's more just sort of creepy and silly and funny here and there. But it made me laugh. It's a horror comedy. It made me laugh in some spots, which I don't audibly laugh at movies and games a whole lot. I don't know if you guys are like this too. If you guys go into a comedy movie with me, I may not laugh through the entire thing, and I may think the movie's hilarious, and I love the movie. I don't know why I'm like that. I sometimes don't laugh. So when something gets me to like audibly laugh out loud, like
It's an achievement.
a movie or something. Oh, it's not an achievement. It hits.
Sounds like one.
Some piece of. I didn't want to put. Listen, I'm making me laugh. Take some skill. No. It just hits some part of my brain. Okay. Although I will say, there are multiple moments in the movie Step Brothers that always makes me laugh. So if there's a movie that hits the parts of my brain, maybe it's the alligator part of my brain. I don't know. In Sound Mind, recommend it if you like horror games, puzzlers, interesting stories. It's about mental health, so it dabbles in some pretty serious topics. And I think it does a solid job handling that stuff. Not perfect, but definitely good. And I don't think to the point that it's like bad or anything like that. So I'd recommend In Sound Mind. And then, I beat Resident Evil 8. And Resident Evil 8 is just, speaking of a funny game, speaking of a comedy, Resident Evil was also a game that made me laugh out loud. And I don't think it was meaning to. So
I'm sure it was.
Probably. Resident Evil 8 has a really interesting twist at the end. It kind of fulfills the twist in a way. I was kind of hoping it'd go a different direction, but that's fine. I think it's the best Resident Evil since, well, not counting the VR remake, since Resident Evil 4. I'd say
Remake of Resident Evil 2?
Oh, well, no, okay, sorry, chronologically.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'd say chronologically, even though I haven't played 6, and I hate 5. So
you're really gonna hate 6.
But I remember there was Ethan Winters, the main character of Resident Evil 8. Leon in Resident Evil 4 is sort of like
he knows the situation he's in is stupid.
He's he's close to Raiden, Metal Gear Solid 2, right?
Sure.
Like sort of young, naive, kind of silly, you know.
Okay.
Ethan is that, but take out the childlike and just put in moron. Like Ethan's dense. And so you'd have these amazing sequences where there's a villain, what's the guy's name who makes tanks? One of the main villains.
Heisenberg,
yeah. So Heisenberg is like Magneto. He can control metal or whatever, right? So you have these awesome scenes where he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Metal's flying around on screen. And so you'll have a scene where he's like, hello, Ethan. I believe it's time for you to die. And there's like all this great metal everywhere. And Ethan's response is just like, fuck you, man. And that's the dialogue. That's the dialogue, you know? So you've got this amazing set piece with all these amazing characters, and Ethan's always like, man, you're crazy, man. Fuck you, man. And then you
Just trying to find my daughter.
just trying to find my daughter, man. And then you go into combat, and it's great. It's hilarious. And there's a villain who the game clearly wants you to sympathize with, and Ethan just doesn't have any part of it. Ethan's like, you're disgusting, you piece of shit. It's hilarious. It's funny. So I think I don't know if they did all that on purpose, but I hope they did because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And besides that, Resident Evil 8 is very good.
Yeah.
And
it's excellent.
It was really reminiscent of Resident Evil 4, which I didn't know until I played the VR, and I was like, holy shit. These are basically the same game. You get the weapon upgrades, you get a fish part. And the other thing about Resident Evil 8 is it also has one of the scariest sequences I've ever played in a game. Like that was straight out of
Silent Hill, literally.
Yeah, that was straight out of some really scary. I won't spoil what happens, but it was set up really well. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they do in the future, what Resident Evil does, and that's the other thing. The ending. Well, I won't spoil the endings as it came out this year. The ending is a twist, and it also ends in a funny way, gameplay wise, funny and cool. But I hope they take it in an interesting direction, because the end of Resident Evil 8 definitely seemed like something different was going to be next because of some things that happened at the end of 8.
Yeah,
right?
we'll see.
Sense?
Yeah, we'll see. It could be continued because supposedly they're making story DLC because fans not necessarily demanded it, but
and they did it with 7.
Yeah, they did it with 7. You're correct.
Okay. Hit the ad.
We want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this episode. They have been silently supporting us since the very beginning, and we felt it was time to give them some love. The like and share buttons have been at our side since episode 1 of the podcast. They can be found just beneath this episode. Please give them a click, it helps us greatly. If you're feeling lucky, click the bell icon to enter for a notification anytime we post new content. You may be surprised by what you get.
Employees at Ubisoft say not much has changed. This is in a story by Kotaku's Ethan Gatch. The story begins with Valerie, who experienced sexual harassment and racism shortly after joining Ubisoft. She reported the events, but nothing came of it. She was harassed again later this year, right? So this is after all this stuff happened. Mm-hmm. So she reported she experienced the harassment again, reported it later this year, hoping the fallout from Ubisoft's toxic workplace culture was going to mean that things would be handled better, as you would expect it to. But a resolution to her case never came, and then earlier this year, she resigned. Valerie told Kotaku, quote, "I wish that I could have continued my Ubisoft journey, but I was really affected by all the harassment, discrimination, and toxicity I encountered and how it was handled. I really hope that the situation will get better for Ubisoft, but they are not there yet," end quote. In addition, 8 current and 1 former Ubisoft employee, all of whom are a part of the employee-formed A Better Ubisoft community, so Ubisoft has continued to ignore complaints and calls for greater accountability. One current Ubisoft Montreal employee said, quote, "No matter how the head of Ubisoft wants things to change, the problems we'll run into for a long time is that people in power are from the old guard. So even with the best intentions, issues are still happening. People who think in the same way as the one already in power advance over the others," end quote.
That is the perfect quote to summarize basically everything right now. There's no changing without pretty much getting rid of the entire workforce in the upper ranks. And oh man, I wish things would have changed, but if they don't, which obviously they aren't. I mean, we're gonna find out again. But it's probably going to be much worse, not until something even worse happens.
I think this isn't going to go away.
No.
If the idea at Ubisoft is that they took their hit and now they can go back to selling
whatever they
their,
want.
normal Ubisoft games, and Yves can go back to doing whatever he does on the E3. People are more emboldened to speak to the media today than they were, I think, even 3 years ago, right?
Mm.
And we have journalists, Jason Schreier at Bloomberg, Cecilia D'Anastasio at Wired, who reported a lot in the sort of Kotaku, that sort of gaming scene, right? So these are people that have gone on to bigger, and the Washington Post is doing a lot of game reporting. So these are people that sort of, cut their teeth covering E3, covering the Bay Area. And they've got these contacts, and now they're at way bigger publications that are doing stories about international news and stuff like that. And so you're reaching wider audiences. So 5 years ago, when Jason Schreier writes a story about Crunch, puts it on Kotaku, versus today, where he writes a story about Crunch, puts it on Bloomberg, now all of a sudden that story's reaching a much wider audience, right? Which means the narrative of the problems of the games industry is reaching a wider audience. That, plus people being, I think, more emboldened, more willing to speak, just means that I don't think Ubisoft can sweep this under the rug. Does that mean that they won't meaningfully change? That may be true, and that's disheartening. And I think you're right, Richard. I don't know, Ubisoft is a family business. So it's a lot of cousins, it's a lot of,
Nepotism.
Yeah, that's one word for it.
Well, that is the word for it.
And I don't know, if your company has systemic failures, I feel like the answer isn't, strengthening the bonds in your family and bringing them up through the company, because that would just be reinforcing the systemic failures, right? So yeah, I think this isn't going to go away anytime soon. And the other thing is, we've had a few of these stories over the past few months, right? I think we had one in France, one of the French newspapers that covers games.
For Ubisoft, right?
For Ubisoft,
Yes.
yeah. Wrote a piece, and then that got picked up in the United States and sort of re-reported. So it's like we continue to get these little tiny stories about, hey, things still aren't different. And so, and you know what? In a year, if Activision Blizzard hasn't changed, I think you'll have similar stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's unfortunate because they're just playing the game of waiting till the spotlight is off of them to continue just doing what the status quo.
Continue business as usual.
Yeah, until something, once again, an incident happens and we'll get right. Oh yeah, sure, we'll change, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely forget about it again. We'll see what happens.
Yet another story coming out surrounding Ubisoft, and still nothing from Yves Guillemot.
Yeah, and I don't follow the guy, so I can't speak to.
You would have heard by now.
You would think, though, that's the thing, though, right? If he
it would have been
apologized,
picked up by
Yeah, it would have
Jason
been, right,
Schreier.
yeah,
it would have been picked up
least.
somewhere, correct? You
Yeah.
would think so. No, that's another good point. Is the message is not I failed. The message is sort of a sorry.
Oops.
My trust was betrayed as well, and by Far Cry 6.
I'm the victim too.
I'm the victim too. It's like, nah, bruh, nah.
Not in the slightest.
People Make Games made a video about the result of Mass Effect 3's ending change. There's a lot to get into here. The video by Chris Bratt and Annie Sayers, and if you're not subscribed to People Make Games, I would highly recommend it. They interviewed 9 former BioWare developers. The 2 central themes of the video, which we'll post in the description: changing a story of a game post-release to appease fans, and the cost of actually doing so. So you have the sort of the artistic integrity of it, and then the physical cost, the labor, whatever, the business behind it. The story of how Mass Effect 3's ending came to be is complicated, and still to this day, some people did not want to talk about it. It was, of course, eventually updated with an extended cut, which took tons of crunch to get done. Not all of the team even knew the ending, what it was going to be like, which is something that makes sense, but I don't think you ever It's one of those things that you intuitively know, but you don't know. Does that make sense? Like, it totally makes sense that an artist has no idea what's going to happen.
What's going on in the writing room.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't know it. But it's one of those things where I wouldn't have thought it until it was told to me.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, BioWare got lots of hate, harassment, even death threats after the ending. Part of what weighed down BioWare was that Mass Effect 3's ending happened after Dragon Age 2, which was developed on a short time frame, which was a business decision, and did not release to positive reviews. So you had sort of back-to-back struggles at BioWare, and it seems like nowadays that's something that occurs a lot at BioWare, unfortunately. Yeah. On whether Mass Effect 3's extended cut was the correct thing to do, as far as the devs People Make Games talked with, their opinion is split, and we have a clip here we're going to play.
It's kind of a selfish thing for me because I am glad that we made a better product.
I honestly would not have changed it.
Do I wish that the ending was satisfactory? Yeah, of course I do. But it's like I think now I probably have like very little tolerance for people who still bring it up.
I've tended to always sort of think of the audience of a role-playing game, whether it's a computer RPG or a tabletop role-playing game. I always think of the audience as part of the experience of creating the art.
To say like, oh, that's not my ending, you must make another ending. How do you, telling an artist that, to me still boggles my mind a little bit.
I think it was a good thing to do. I mean, I think it's a shame that it had to happen in the first place.
And I think there's a lot of people, including myself, who felt like we shouldn't do this. That like this is opening Pandora's box.
What I was very, very happy about personally is that they recognized that there was value to some criticism that was made and they tried to address it.
That minute of the video, I think, is probably one of the more fascinating minutes.
More poignant.
More poignant, is another one. Especially once you hear about a lot of the harassment and stuff like that. To still have some developers say, and it's not that I disagree with them, it's just interesting to hear them say, it's an interesting way to take feedback. It's like, whoa. Yeah. And a lot of the developers in the video did say how many of the messages they got are positive, and it's not all negative. But obviously, negative ones tend to be more severe, so it sort of taints the well, if you will. Yeah.
I wanna know who sent them those cupcakes.
Yeah, so that was one of the stories in the video,
and it was a story that was big. But they got sent a ton of cupcakes that all were labeled A, B, and C in different colors based off of the endings that you got in Mass Effect, and they donated them, at least according to the video, because it was just kind of just like, we don't want your sarcastic cupcakes. Like, get the heck out of here. But I have and I'm probably giving too much credit to the person who sent the cupcakes, but what if that person liked the ending and just sent them those cupcakes as like
no idea.
This is funny, right? Like, because they're being made fun of for these three endings that really had no difference.
Your own cupcake,
right? And that was interesting too. I thought that was very interesting because the storyboardists that they gave the art to for the endings, he labeled those as those colors to differentiate them, not actually to tell them to put those colors into the game. That's just how they perceived it, and they put it in the game. So I thought that was very wild on its own. But it's definitely a point in gaming history that still to this day people don't forget, especially with the re-release of the Legendary edition of Mass Effect. People still debate on it, and I actually haven't. I haven't played the Citadel DLC, the like new ending. I've never played it, and people enjoy it a lot. But I don't know. I was done with Mass Effect because I finished it and I moved on. I didn't feel I need to go back and I'm gonna have to, because I will be getting the Legendary Edition. I do want to play through that series again. So I will have to experience sooner or later and see what they actually did to get on like more personal note. Like I don't know how I would have ended that story. It's just me personally. Like my Shepard, whatever happened, and I haven't played the game since it came out. Whatever happened, I was satisfied with, because I saw no other like. I think I did the one where I sacrificed myself to save everyone.
Yeah,
like my Shepard.
And
it's like, well, that's one that makes sense. Like, I've already been dead once. Why do I get that? Like, I was brought back to do this.
Sure.
That's and so I didn't care much about my shepherd. I cared about everyone else, which I got the endings for those characters. I felt comparatively, but that's my take on it. But this is a very, very interesting video, and I loved it. I actually was doing other stuff at the time, and I stopped everything else to just continue watching this, and it was really good.
Do you want to say something?
Oh, no.
Sorry, you looked at me like you had something to say. So I would. Yeah, so I'm someone that I really hated the ending of Mass Effect 3. I didn't think it made sense. But life goes on. And if Thor Ragnarok is bad, life goes on, right? And you can be disappointed in things. And that doesn't mean that life doesn't go on. I think it's interesting. One thing that I never really made the connection to until this video is the car wreck that was the Mass Effect 3 ending in Gamergate, going on sort of around the same time proximity. So I'm sure that added to the vitriol and to the harassment of it, because that sort of thing was ignited around that time. And you know what? Even after I beat Mass Effect 3 for the first time and then saw the extended cut, it didn't make me feel any better.
Yeah,
because it felt like it was just it's just weird to have this is what we want. And then to have an update that says, okay, and it wasn't a change, it was extended cut, whatever. There's just something strange to me about that. Some of the developers in that clip alluded to it, about an artist saying this is what I want to create and then sort of changing it. And I think that's different from getting feedback and from like early access games and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it's different.
As opposed to writing a story and then extending it or whatever based on fans being sad or whatnot.
Yeah.
So even though I disliked the ending, I didn't even if you fixed everything that I disliked about it, it still would be weird because it's like, okay, well, this is the one that I experienced first. So now in my mind, I have these two endings. And it's not like Mass Effect is this huge thing like superheroes, where the ending of one comic doesn't matter because there are a gajillion other comics, right? Like Mass Effect was one thing. So it's just hard to not rationalize. It's hard to
find the common ground.
Yeah, I can't think of the word I'm looking for there. But besides all that, the harassment that they got is just besides the point. Yeah. Nothing that a video game can do warrants that kind of harassment and that kind of extreme, bomb threats and stuff like that. And that is an all too common occurrence.
Very wild.
It's an all too common occurrence today. And I think...
But it's like just recently Blue Box Games or Blue Box Studios came out and was like, could you please stop sending us death threats? It's like... It's a video game that hasn't even been announced yet, and you're sending death threats.
And there's one thing about being excited. You can be excited. You can criticize things. I think sometimes people, when you watch a video like this and you see the human beings behind a game, it almost makes you think, should we even criticize video games? And it's like, okay, well, of course you should, because you can criticize and critique things and discuss things without.
In a civil, healthy manner.
Without harassing people, right?
Yeah.
Just like you can discuss sports teams without harassing the athletes, whatever. You can talk about bands you dislike without harassing the band members, right? And the people that like that band. But I think that's one important point to make for, I guess, no other reason, but I just wanted to make it. But yeah, another thing that this brought to my mind is the idea of community, right? Because we hear about communities a lot in today's gaming landscape because of games as a service and stuff like that. And that was something I never really understood. Like, what does it mean to be a part of a community of a game? How far does that stretch? And what rights does that give you? Does that make sense? I think it's a really nebulous, weird way. And I see posts all the time, like on r/Halo or something. It's like, hey, 343, listen to the community. And it's like, dude, what is the community? Listen to who? Like, who are you talking about here? Do you want developers to just scroll through the comments and try and parse all that and put it into the game? Doesn't make sense.
Right.
So again, back to the Mass Effect 3 thing. It's like, they gave way to feedback that was in the middle of this huge angry rush, and how much of that feedback was from people that played the game, complained online for 2 months, and then to this day they completely forget that they were so invested in Mass Effect 3. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, that does. Because a lot of these threats, a lot of this harassment could just be from random guys who aren't even a part of the gaming community or whatnot, and just want to cause chaos, out there on the internet or to people.
Yeah. And so that's what all that stuff I found fascinating. And the video began with the story about I forget a dating sim.
But
I forget the game.
Boyfriend Dungeon.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but that was an interesting event that happened earlier this year.
And that comparison was a bit different because the Boyfriend Dungeon had a character in it who harasses the main character.
Right.
But the point of the story is that this character is part of the narrative. The part of the narrative is harassment, is dealing with unwanted sexual advances, which is a touchy topic, but not a topic that I think is off limits to storytelling and fiction and stuff like that, as long as you do it tastefully.
Yeah.
And there are people, I guess, that didn't want that to be in the game at all.
Well,
at first it was, they had a warning that this game may contain this, and the game, it's not that it may, it's that it did. You couldn't really get around it, so they changed that. But then the discussion became, okay, but why does this have to be in the game at all? And so, but it's like, okay, but this is the story that we want to tell, and that's I feel like that's a fascinating discussion, as opposed to the Mass Effect 3 ending, where I think it was just poorly written, but it was still an ending, even if it didn't make sense, as opposed to having some kind of content in it that's really messy. It looked like you were gonna say something.
I was going to, because I followed that story fairly closely, what happened to it, and they had the splash screen at the beginning to tell you specifically, like, you will receive text messages from mom or mother, and they told you that because they didn't want to affect people who maybe recently lost their mom or what, bring back memories. They did not forewarn about this character, which this game, whether you agree with my next sentence or not, probably was more aimed towards the female audience. There are definitely men who like, it looks cool to me, but it was definitely aimed towards the female audience. And you don't have to spend a minute, or you don't even have to finish the question asking a woman if they've been harassed. And you're going to say, yes, absolutely. And there are a lot of women who have been in terrible relationships, and they did not realize that there was going to be a character like this in the game. And that for them was infinitely worse than the mom thing. So then it became like you didn't warn us about this, but the idea of the game, from what I understand, is to overcome that and heal from it.
And I cannot speak to whether or not the game does that tastefully, does it well. That's something that I can't speak to because I haven't played it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I know from Kotaku, I think I'm pronouncing her name right, Gita Jackson. She was.
I think that's.
She played through the game and was advocating for it, that it was a good game and whatnot. So.
Gotcha. Cool.
But anyways, I just wanted to clear that up.
Just to bring up on a point that it was passing point that you made, a question about rights of the community. The right of the community is to play the game. That's it. They have no real, unless, of course, it's open access, or not open access, early access game, and they're requesting feedback from the community.
Specifically, yeah.
If a game is released and there is a subreddit for the game, your right as the community is to play the game. That's it.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I guess I come from that place. I come from a very skeptical place when it comes to people talking about the community and stuff.
Well, I mean,
because it's just like, I can't, like, I'm a big Sooners fan, but I can't speak for Sooners fans. Because I just know me. Even if it went on r/Oklahoma Sooners or whatever the Sooners subreddit is. There's only a small percentage of the people that root for the Oklahoma Sooners are on that subreddit. So it's like, okay, I go on there, I know everybody, I read every post. I still only know a fraction of the thoughts of every Sooner fan.
Right.
So then to leave a message saying, hey, Oklahoma, listen to the community. It's like, it's not going to make any sense. So anyway, that's just I guess that's sort of a tangent. That's sort of vaguely has to do with the
I mean,
Mass Effect
this
3
is this topic of like the community has come up a bit frequently. Like it's come up a fair few times frequently. And one thing people like don't remember that they're licensing the game to people to play. That's what you get when you buy a game.
Sure.
I mean, that's what it is. That's why there's an EULA.
Yeah, it's all dumb though.
Yeah,
I just want to say.
But
Fuck you, man. I'm gonna go to Ether now. Fuck you.
But the right of the user playing the game is to play the game.
Okay,
that's where it ends.
But that's not.
No, that's where it ends.
But that's not what we're talking about when we say rights.
I know, but that's what people need to realize is that they have zero going on inside the company, and they need to remember that.
Sure, we'll leave it
Okay.
there. Were you gonna say something else?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna finish this. No, I'm just kidding. Washington Post reports that Twitch protected some streamers from bans. So this was partially due, or this, I guess, came out due to the big Twitch hack that happened a couple weeks ago. As again, first reported by the Washington Post. A part of the Twitch leak was a file titled "Do Not Ban List," which is just something oddly blunt about that. Some have taken the list as evidence that some streamers are bulletproof, or that recent trends like hot tub streams and streamers returning after multiple bans / not getting banned for violating conduct policy are due to this list. According to several Twitch employees, the reality is a little more complicated. The do not banned list is itself 5 years old, meaning it predates a lot of the recent trends and controversy that we've just talked about. But the list does contribute to a culture that they say gives some streamers more leeway than others. The list was meant to work in conjunction with other Twitch systems to ensure certain channels weren't banned for certain things. As an example, non-gaming streams used to be forbidden on Twitch, but before Twitch made an IRL category in 2016, the company was experimenting with non-gaming content in select cases, so you didn't want a channel getting banned for being experimental because they were trying to do experimental things. Another example, Twitch's head of community production, there's that word again, Marcus Graham, had underage as a note next to his name because he would occasionally bring his child on stream, and users would report him for breaking Twitch's rule against streams by people under 13. So obviously, again, don't ban this person because they're not breaking the they're not breaking the rule.
TOS,
yeah, sure. However, in some instances, streamers were protected. Brian Lee, aka Ricegum, told a YouTuber that with a history of inappropriate jokes / insensitive comments is on the list, even though admins should be able to ban him after he temporarily lost his Twitch partnership a few years ago. One former Twitch staffer said, quote, Ricegum got partnership removed way back in the day, but Twitch refused to ban him outright because he got viewership. So even though he wasn't a partner, he was treated like one and given partner outreach when he broke the rules instead of being suspended by the admin team, end quote. Twitch declined to comment on the list.
My knee-jerk reaction is to just kind of say, well, I mean, this is a 5-year-old list. Why do we have to worry about it anymore? But the comment about there being a now sort of culture behind that list at Twitch is really interesting because there is several problematic people still on Twitch who are getting a lot of leeway, and it's very obvious they're getting leeway, but it does come down to that stupid things that they bring in the money. That's it, you know. Look how many things are on YouTube that aren't taken off or gotten rid of, and it's just because of the money. Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I'm glad there's no list now, but that doesn't stop them from kind of having that wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, hey, don't.
I mean, just because there's not a file list doesn't mean there's not a list.
There's not an actual right. No, that makes sense too.
Yeah. Maybe it's a paper list that they have just like written up in Twitch headquarters.
In the CEO's office, just like
there's a whiteboard.
Don't
do not ban
me.
Critical role.
Yeah, Jesus.
So I think this is a Twitch problem, but it's also larger than Twitch. You mentioned YouTube, so this is the current state of technology problem.
This is a who makes the most money problem.
So when you are making money off of things, how do you manage content? How do you manage behavior? How do you manage what goes on your platform? And how do you reconcile? That's the word I was searching for earlier. How do you reconcile that with numbers? And sometimes it's you kind of punish people, but you kind of look the other direction, and then people take advantage of the few times that you punish them and say there's a conspiracy out to get certain people and certain ideologies, which time and again isn't necessarily substantiated. Yeah, so I think this is deflating for people that want Twitch to get better because you don't want this kind of culture there, especially with
obvious favoritism, of course.
I mean, and all the recent stuff with like hate raids and stuff, right? Like this is not something that you want to think has ingrained itself culturally inside the way Twitch operates.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because if we remember what the hacker said, according to the hacker, it was they want to make Twitch better, they want to make the marketplace better, stuff like that. And, you know, if I were that person and I said that, it definitely seems like this is something I would want people to see, right?
Of course, yes.
Because this seems like it falls right in line with what they said, with how they want to make Twitch a better place, talking about its toxic community and all that. And I feel like this seems to be an origin point for what could be some pretty serious toxicity if certain streamers who do certain things are giving leeway to continue doing those things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What a story.
Are we good for?
Yes.
Good for
the
tidbits?
the bits of
Play
tids,
tidbits.
the bits of tids.
A man discusses the news, but not like the big news, the little news. Little bit. This is the tidbits.
Are you gonna keep that line in there? Because I said it while it was.
It's going to be up to Connor. It's going to be really weird now if he takes
All
it
right,
out.
don't worry,
because
don't worry.
No one's going to know what we're referencing. Go ahead.
Kind of wish we had cold open still. Grasshopper manufacturer of No More Heroes fame, Suda51 is part of it as well. They are now part of NetEase, the Chinese conglomerate. Grasshopper has signed an equity trade agreement back in May. And now Grasshopper says that the partnership ensures that the developer will maintain creative freedom while NetEase provides greater funding, allowing the team to focus more on game development and less on the stresses of publishing. Is this another problem? Because NetEase is Chinese along with like,
I mean, you know, I think there's that if you're going to do business in a large quantity with China, you're gonna have to put up with the Chinese government.
Sure.
I don't think
Always,
there's anything.
always.
I don't think there's anything xenophobic about that, right? Because any other, if you were doing,
I don't think so, because it's not like an official stance from the Chinese government, but anytime there's a large deal done with China, the Chinese government is involved and they have their fingers deep in that.
sure, yeah. So anytime, and I'll put it this way: when you do business with a business from a totalitarian, a dictatorship, a one-party state.
Goes our viewership from China.
Not Taiwan, not countries like Taiwan.
Wow. You went for it.
Now we're banned in China.
You know, I probably shouldn't have reported this.
No, but when you do business with states like that, I think you're going to have to put up with the state. That just makes sense. So, you know, 20 years ago, you'd be talking about the USSR or whatever, even though not much business as far
Not
as I know.
20 years ago. 20 years ago was 2001.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm still stuck in 2004. You know, I'm really excited for Resident Evil 4 to come out next year.
I mean, I still do that 30 years ago. Yeah, the 80s or the 70s. But it's like,
Yeah.
Anyways, Project Shaolin may be a new game featuring the Wu-Tang Clan. Hopefully it's true. Hopefully it's true.
Dang, it's for the kids.
It is for the kids. The basis of this comes from the infamous Nvidia leak, which...
Jeez. I just love how Nvidia. Sorry, not to interrupt you.
Nvidia screwed up a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Nvidia is just like there's that meme of the guy. It's like
Holding
I
all the
can't
living.
hold all my. I can't
lives.
hold all these.
All
and
these
it's always
confirmations.
Like,
Yeah.
And Nvidia's like I can't hold all these leaks.
If you don't know, there's an Nvidia leak that basically... We don't want to say confirmed because none of these were confirmed. Just a ton of games that are not been announced.
A lot of images they had.
Right, yeah. It turns out so far a good amount of them have been confirmed. So this is probably safe to say it'll be okay. Anyways, it comes from the Nvidia Leak and, of course, Jeff Grubb. On his podcast, Jeff was speaking on the rumor when someone asked if Brass Lion was developing the game, and he didn't outwardly confirm it, but several other sources have heard that Brass Lion is developing this game. They are a new studio made of industry vets. That's all we got on them. Project Shaolin will supposedly be a third-person melee-oriented action RPG with co-op play up to 4 players. And the Wu-Tang Clan is said to be providing the soundtrack for the game, which they have had a game before, actually. Wu-Tang Shaolin Style on the PS1. It was very good.
What was the name of that?
Wu-Tang Shaolin Style.
Oh, okay.
Because their name is, based off of Chinese martial arts films.
I don't know anything about the Wu-Tang Clan. So
they're for the kids.
Okay, I guess I know that. It's a family-friendly group.
They're also nothing to fuck with. So. Okay. Fatal Frame directors considering remastering earlier titles. Yes, please. Director Makoto Shibata said in an interview that with JP Games, as this title was prepared for the 20th anniversary of the series, we currently don't have any plans to develop any other remastered versions. Sorry, he was speaking about... Fatal Frame, The Maiden of Blackwater, which is coming out at the end of the month.
Oh, okay.
He was
Wait,
speaking.
Is it a new one?
It is Fatal Frame 4, which came out on the Wii U, which not a lot of people know because it was digital only and on the Wii U.
What's Wii U? What is it?
It was the console before Nintendo sold like 12 million units.
12 units.
However, the reactions we received from everyone have exceeded our expectations in, when he's talking about the new one. So I'd like to consider this moving forward as far as remastering. You know what? I butchered this one.
I get it.
They're going to remaster earlier titles.
Okay.
I thought you did a fine job reporting.
Thank you. We haven't used that once today, by the way.
I like a do.
You don't have to. Yeah. Hiroshi Ono, also known as Mr. Dotman, has unfortunately passed away. Ono joined Namco in 1979 and worked with the company until 2013. And throughout his tenure, Hiroshi Ono was responsible for his sprite work featured in games like Galaga, Dig Dug, Mappy, and more. He's basically like a legend in the pixel art community. He lost his battle with an undisclosed illness on October 16th. So rest in peace. And that is it for the tidbits.
Should we have some MPDs?
We got numbers, folks.
Hooray!
Numbers. All right. So I lost the Steam just kind of stopped and I was like, whoa, wait. September 2021 consumer spending across video game hardware, content, and accessories. Oh, sorry. All this information is taken from Matt Piscatella, verbatim, from Twitter, head of the NPDs.
Matt. First name basis.
Get him on the show.
September 2021 consumer spending across video game hardware, content, and accessories grew 3% when compared to a year ago, reaching a September record of $4.4 billion. Year to date is $42.3 billion, 12% increase from 1 year ago. Hardware was once again a primary driver of the spending gains in September, increasing 49% compared to a year ago. Mobile and subscription offset declines across other segments to keep content spending flat versus a year ago. Sorry, I was just the numbers. There's so many of them. Mason, what do they mean? Sorry.
Black Ops reference.
It is a Black Ops reference. But considering where we're at as far as chip shortage, the docks in LA, whatnot, 49% increase compared to a year ago. That's very impressive.
I don't know where people are finding things to buy.
Don't know. They're doing it. September video game hardware dollar sales increased 49% when compared to September of 2020 to $412 million. Year-to-date hardware spending has also gained 49% when compared to the same period a year ago, totaling $3.4 billion. PS5's best-selling hardware platform in September, both units and dollars. Best-selling hardware of 2021 year-to-date. Nintendo leads in units for this year. So Nintendo has sold more systems. PlayStation's made more money, but that's obvious. There's like a $200 difference.
Yeah.
Let's see here. September 2021 snaps the remarkable 33 consecutive month streak that Nintendo Switch was the market's leading platform in hardware unit sales. November 2018 was the last month a platform other than Nintendo led the market in unit sales, which was the PS4. Madden 2022. Tales of Arise set a new launch. Madden 22 is it's the best-selling game of the month.
Okay.
Okay. No, I don't think there's a surprise there.
No, I mean, it is September, so it's kind of a little bit of a surprise.
Wait, you know what? No, that is surprising.
Yeah, because August is Madden month, so it won that month, but it also won September.
Yeah. Well, now that I think about it, what else did anything?
This isn't a
came
competition.
out in September? Did anything come out in September?
Tales of Arise came out in September.
Oh yeah, but Madden's gonna.
Wow. Okay.
Listen,
I guess I might as well not talk about
there's
Tales of
games
Arise
that
next.
men play, like Elite Dangerous,
And then there's Madden.
Sorry, real quick. PS4 has sold over 100 million systems, but God of War has only sold 20 million copies. So that's 80 million people who have not
physical
played.
copies, though, right?
No, I think that's a physical and
Physical
digital.
and digital.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, no, but it's always like that. That's the thing. Like, and this is what I try to convey every time I talk about numbers and stuff and the average person.
Oh,
because
no, it doesn't make sense.
There are.
I'm just stupid.
How many people are not buying those games or not, but they are buying the consoles? It's a huge disparity.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of the people that didn't get God of War probably have Madden.
There are gamers and there are people who play games.
Sure.
There is a difference.
That makes sense.
Because there are a lot of people who only buy their console for either Madden or NBA or Call of Duty or whatnot. It's wild. Tales of Arise set a new launch month dollar sales record for any of the Tales franchise's release. Tales of Arise ranked as the 4th best-selling game of September 2021. Life is Strange is the other one. True Colors launched as September's 10th best-selling game. Life is Strange True Colors generated the highest launch month dollar sales for any Life is Strange title to date. That's not hard because Life is Strange has never released as a full title. This one did. It was always in episodes, and you had to buy them separately, so that doesn't surprise me. WarioWare Get It Together debuted as the 15th overall best-selling game of September, while also ranking 2nd on Switch. WarioWare achieved the highest launch month sales for a WarioWare franchise release since WarioWare Smooth Moves in January 2007. U.S. mobile gaming market exceeded $2 billion in consumer spending. 8 of the 9 months of 2021 to date, including September. Average monthly spending is approximately 28% higher than that experienced in the first 9 months of 2020. As people are just staying home, they got nothing else to do, man.
Jeez.
September 2021 spending on video game accessories fell 12% when compared to a year ago to $171 million. Year-to-date accessory sales reached $1.8 billion, increasing 9% when compared to a year ago. I'm going to state this. I don't have like all the info to back it up because whatever. Subscriber growth for Xbox Game Pass was slower than the company hoped for in the past year, according to a new financial filing. But that's all I have on it. I don't have the numbers or anything.
Interesting.
Because I started to write it up and I got distracted and I just realized now that I left it up here. So I might as well report it. But that's it for the NPDs for this month.
Interesting. Okay. Go ahead, Connor.
I just had a thought about the 20 million God of War, 100 million PlayStation 4. I'd argue that 80%, that haven't played it is
difference. Yeah.
That 80% difference is, I'd argue, probably closer to like 75 to 70 because then there's people like Tyler and I where it's like, hey, I bought this game. Oh, cool. And I play it on his PlayStation.
Yeah.
Or people that loan out games to friends.
Yeah.
There's probably a small percentage.
I'd say
there definitely is.
Max 10%, and that's like pushing it, but 5%. But no, it is a good point to bring up.
Yeah, no, definitely. And of course, that's not counting people whose consoles have broke and they just go buy a new one or trade it in or whatever. So, yeah.
Okay. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse. Check out the last few reviews. We're working on a few reviews right now. And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.